Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Tuesday, April the 14th. Overall markets, as you can see, rallying nicely towards the upside here. Ended up filling the gap yesterday right off the bat. Overall, SPY and the Qs heading towards the upside. Really, next levels that we have on the higher time frames is our all-time high. So that's what we have on the major indices. We do have core PPI coming into market open. That is going to be at 8:30. So we'll mark up some charts, go over a couple things, and then wait for core PPI. Besides that, let me pull up the economic calendar before we do that. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Marcus. Good morning, Victor. P1TW. Good morning, Maria. Cody. Good morning, B Roots. Wisdom, Cosmic. Good morning, Chris. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning, Night, Dew, Swan, Cinna, Julius, Gerald, Sam. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me pull up the economic calendar here, and then we will get started. Okay. So yeah, let's go on to the economic calendar and what we have coming into this morning. First things first, some news in the overnight session. Not really too much, but we are going to resume the peace talks later this week. As I kind of talked about, one thing to mention is the overall market is moving higher, right? We're gravitating towards our all-time highs. And I talked about this a little bit last week and specifically yesterday as well when we had that gap down in the markets, is that whenever we do have some sort of bearish news event in the markets, and the markets aren't heading lower, that's a good sign that we're just going to continue higher, right? That's a sign that the markets have bottom, especially when we have some sort of gap down like over the weekend, but then instantly bought back up and we end up continuing higher, right? Filling the gap, holding key levels in the higher time frame, sorry. And just based off technicals, right? The next key levels that we do have is, of course, going to be the all-time highs on both the SPY and the Qs. So at least for the economic calendar coming into market open, what we do have here is core PPI. That is going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll wait for that. We'll mark up some charts and then kind of wait for the reaction for core PPI. Nothing else too much. We have some orange folder news tomorrow. We have some unemployment here on Thursday. And then Friday, we do have a Fed speaker as well, which is going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's what we have coming into today. This is going to be the major news event. Let's pull up the earnings calendar here as well. As I mentioned, we do have a bunch of banks reporting, so that's something to keep in mind. We'll talk about the earnings, the major earnings later into this week. And of course, next week, we have Tesla reporting and then the big tech reporting the week after. But a bunch of big banks reporting today, or sorry, reporting this morning. We have some more banks tomorrow. And then, of course, Charles Schwab on Thursday. And then Netflix is really the only tech name that's reporting this week. So this is what we have coming into market open here. We'll take a look at Netflix as well. But as I mentioned, let's hop on to some charts. Talk about the game plan coming to market open, and then we'll wait for 8:30, and then we'll kind of develop our game plan from there. So first things first, let's talk about the SPY chart here on the higher time frames. Let's first talk about the weekly time frame. I talked about this a little bit yesterday and what we can expect coming into this week. Digging a little bit deeper here on the weekly time frame. And as you can see so far, we're only one day into the week. But overall SPY and Qs, just based off this weekly time frame here, looking at nothing else and external factors, trading back inside this range as I talked about, but end up having a strong weekly candle close last week, strong candle close so far coming into market open. You can see really the next levels that we have on the SPY is going to be all the way back up and towards our all-time highs. Right, this is just based off the weekly time frame. As I mentioned, pretty big move higher. There's a very good chance we end up just gravitating back up and towards our all-time highs. Right, could price now dig a little bit deeper, back down in towards this key level of support, which is our 675 for a push up in towards our all-time highs. Yes, it very much well could come back down or now just kind of gravitate up in towards our all-time highs key level. Regardless, right, the all-time highs is going to be key here on the SPY, and that's where we're going to essentially flip our buys, right? Regardless, for the overall markets, we should be right. You should definitely should not be bearish, right? Once we invalidate this breakish structure, every single higher low so far being bought up, right? You definitely should not be bearish, right? If you're waiting for some sort of pullback long, that's fine here as well. But now for the SPY, the key level, as I mentioned, is going to be that previous day highs that we have marked out. Phone is breaking. It should be fine. Is the stream fine, everyone? It doesn't seem like any of my frames are dropping here. Someone was mentioning, I think it's not lagging, but it must be on your end. Try and refresh the stream. Everything should be good. Best share in the world from Nepal. Learned so much from your videos. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Fine. All good. Seems good for me. I'm fine. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Since we're on the daily time frame here on the SPY now. So now the key levels that we have marked out, as I mentioned, is this previous range that we had. All-time highs here, all the way down in towards that 676. So as you can see here for the SPY, yesterday kind of built that higher low, filled the gap towards the upside, maintained structure, and we're continuing higher, right? If we look at the futures, dug a little bit deeper, kind of created this double bottom, and now we're continuing higher here as well. So we're essentially defending this gap, right? We had this gap that we created on the higher time frames. For the ES futures in specific, we defended the gap, and now you can see we're moving higher. Now for the overall markets, the next levels that I mentioned is going to be really this all-time highs here. So what we can have marked out is the break, hold above that level, which is our previous day highs. Now we can expect this continuation up in towards this 696. So this is what we have for the SPY. Another possible scenario, if we come all the way back down in towards that 676 once again, we can see this continuation higher. Sorry, the original level was our 686. Regardless, as I mentioned, we're going to lean more towards the upside, right? We're clearly above this period of consolidation, which is a key level support, reclaim back above that level. Now we're looking for that push up and towards our all-time highs. If you go back into the hourly chart here now as well, yesterday, we ended up having big buyers that stepped in, of course, in the overnight session and then coming to market open, filled the gap back towards the highs. And then we actually got above our previous day highs along with our Friday's highs here as well. So coming into market open here, what we're going to have marked out at least for today, you can see yesterday on SPY, broke above our Friday's highs, which was our last week's highs, based above that level, and we end up having a nice push up into close. Now the key levels that we are going to have marked out is going to be that previous day highs. So we can mark this out, which is our 686. Now what we like to see is this really level hold for continuation higher. So for the SPY coming to market open, for upside, we want to see this previous day highs hold for continuation towards the upside. Scenario number one off that 686. Another possible scenario here is above our pre-market highs, hold above that level for continuation towards the upside here as well. If we're looking at levels that the markets can gravitate towards, really the next levels that we do have is going to be our 696 and our 691. These are the key levels that we have on the higher time frame. So those are the next levels on the SPY. If we're going on to the ES chart here now as well, let me just change this color. As you can see here for the ES, we kind of talked about this, but the key levels that we have is that 6,800. And now you can see buyers are stepping in yesterday. So the key levels that we have marked out on the ES chart, as you can see yesterday, defending this gap level fairly nicely, right? Really strong daily candle on the futures. And now the next level, really similar thing, is going to be back up and towards our all-time highs. If you go into the hourly time frame, bounced off our key level support, which is that 6780 that we talked about, and then we ended up filling this gap that we created. So for this ES coming to market open, fairly similar game plan on the SPY. Key levels that we're going to have marked out coming to market open is just going to now be our previous day highs. So if you do want to see any sort of continuation towards the upside, these are the levels that we could have marked out. So for the ES coming to market open here today, previous day highs marked out 69.30, maintain above our 69.30, continuation towards the upside here is in play. Another possible scenario here as well is above our pre-market highs for this pushback towards the highs. So this is what we have for the ES. We're going to maintain a bullish stance as I talked about, right? For the overall markets here now, ever since last week when we had that gap up, of course, with the news, right? Definitely should be flipping bullish here. Now you can see higher lows are being built. what we're going to do is maintain a bullish stance up and towards our all-time highs. So every single dip that we have in the markets, we're going to be looking for continuation up and towards our all-time highs here on the SPY and the QQQ here as well. All right, let's talk about the QQQ chart. We'll start off on the weekly time frame. Similar thing here. Just briefly go over this one. But basically, as you can see, breaking back above this period of consolidation, which was one of the main levels that we talked about. Now what we like to see is the push up in towards our all-time highs, which is our 640. Right? Overall weekly time frame looks like it can flip back above. Higher lows are being built here. Now we like to see that push up in towards that 640 on the higher time frame charts. So that's what we have for the QQQ. Now, if we go on to the daily time frame, we do have a bigger wick here, which was basically never printed up in towards that key level. But for the for the QQQ chart, we end up breaking above our 620 here on the higher time frame. So essentially, we went from equilibrium once we gapped up. Now we're gravitating towards the top of the range. Moving forward here now on the Qs, what we do is like to flip back above, hold above that 615 and gravitate up in towards our 635, which of course now is going to be our all-time highs. All right, now let's go back onto the lower time frames. Key levels that we're going to have marked out coming to market open is going to be that previous day highs. We can drag this over. 618 is going to be key. So for the QQQ chart, maintain above our 618, hold above our 618 for continuation, above our pre-market highs here as well. We can see this push up in towards our 625 and above here on the higher time frame. So this is what we have for the Qs and the SPY coming to market open. As I mentioned, I am going to be long bias, right? For shorts, there's really not any shorts I'm interested in, right? Even if it does break underneath its previous day highs, hold underneath it, right? Higher time frame is still very much bullish. We're showing some bullish price action here in the pre-market as well. Going to be very hard for me to short, even if we had a big push all the way down and towards our previous day highs, right? Held underneath it. Just because overall market, as I mentioned, is bullish very much. Well, it can be a fake out and we can continue higher, right? Especially if the trend is bullish. You just want to be looking for major pullbacks to long back towards the upside. Okay, now let's go on to the NQ chart. Similar thing here. If we look at the NQ, right, nice bounce off our key level support yesterday, coming to market open, end up filling a gap back towards the upside. Once we got above our Friday's highs, which was our last week's highs, nice continuation towards the upside here as well. So hit our last week's highs, broke above it. Now we're continuing towards the highs. Key levels that we have marked out. Let me actually just kind of refine these levels. But the levels that we can have marked out here on the NQ is just going to be that previous day highs that we can drag over. In this case, it's our 25,560. Previous day highs marked out here on the NQ. What we like to see is it maintain above our previous day highs for continuation back towards the upside, or now, as I mentioned, above our pre-market highs for this continued pushback towards the upside here as well. So this is what we have for the major indices coming into market open here today. Now I'm going to go on to the SMH. Going to head on to the IWM and then a bunch of tech names. We do have about 12 more minutes until core PPI. If you guys do have any tickers or any charts you'd like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that is in the description below here as well. Good morning. What's up, Mr. Incredible? Thanks for the 10. When do you use the 5-minute orb and when do you use the 15-minute? To simply put it, so the 5-minute orb is great when there's some sort of momentum in the market. So basically, if you have some sort of higher time frame thesis, let's say, for example, you're using whatever is breaking out towards the upside. So let's say, for example, Intel, right? Intel's having a really big push towards the upside, something that you could be a little bit more aggressive on, right? You can be using the 5-minute opening range break just because, right, whenever price is breaking towards the highs, right, you can expect it to have a big move right off the bat, right? So I use the 5-minute personally. Whenever the markets are fairly bullish, we have a higher time frame clear trend in the markets. The 15-minute I primarily use whenever we're stuck in between its previous day's range. So if you go back to the daily time frame, a good time to use the 5-minute range was when we're consolidating, right? Back in February, mid-March, this is a great time to use the 15-minute opening range, just because the markets really wasn't doing too much. But once the market started trending towards the downside or the upside here, now, right, the 5-minute is going to be a lot better just because there's a lot more volatility. You can expect bigger moves in the markets. So whenever we have big moves like this, that's when we could start using the 5-minute opening range compared to something that's consolidating in the markets where you could be using the 15-minute opening range. Another good scenario is when we're in between its previous day's range, right? Just kind of opening up in between its previous day's high and its previous day's low, and there's no some sort of higher time frame setup. 15 minutes going to be key when the market starts trending like this. If you go look on like Nvidia, AMD, right, any names that have big trends in the markets, right, this is when you could be using the 5-minute, just because you can expect, right, big continuation right off the bat. All right, now let's go on to the SMH. How do I deal with lagging candles in TradingView? The candle reaction is delayed by a few seconds. I just have premium. Few seconds. I have premium TradingView and subscribe to data, even up my internet speed and nothing. Sometimes TradingView, it is delayed by, and I wouldn't say delayed, sometimes depending on the broker that you have, right? It might be like 1 or 2 ticks off. It's definitely not a few seconds. It might be like half a millisecond. About 0.2 seconds. Really, it's not that big of a deal unless you're micro scalping, right? If you're on the higher time frames, even if you're on the 1-minute time frame, it's not the biggest deal. If you're scalping in like the second chart, then that is something you want to pay attention to. But it's definitely not a few seconds delay. It's more like a millisecond, I'd say. Okay, let's go on to the SMH. So we talked about the SMH. Higher time frame, very much bullish. Weekly time frame flipping above. And you can see this one's leading the market higher, right? We talked about this. SMH fairly bullish, big gap up in the market. This one's at all-time highs. And I can see we're having this nice trade towards the upside here. Key levels that we're going to have marked out is, of course, going to be our our 424 here, and then of course yesterday we marked out here, which was our 434. This is the key levels that we have marked out on the higher time frames. End up bouncing here nicely, filling the gap back towards the upside, and of course gravitating back up in towards our previous day high. So the key levels on the SMH is going to be that 440. So higher time frame, as long as you can maintain above that 442, expect continuation towards the upside. Another big gap up here on the SMH. We could see some sort of gap fill reversal here off that 444, or now we're going to be looking for continuation, of course, above our pre-market highs here as well. Either way, on the SMH, as I mentioned, any sort of pullback long, we are expecting continuation towards the upside here on the SMH. Other levels we can just mark out today is going to be the previous day highs, along with our pre-market highs here as well. All right, that's what we have for the SMH. IWM, another major indice that we are expecting now to gravitate back up and towards our all-time highs. Gap up, as you can see here, now breaking above our last week's highs. Next levels that we do have is going to be that all-time highs on the higher time frames. So for the IWM, the key levels that we have marked out coming into today is going to be that 263. As you can see here, consolidation broke above. Now we're expecting continuation higher. Key levels that we are going to have marked out is going to be our 265. As long as you can maintain above our 265 here, we can expect continuation towards the upside. Another one above our pre-market highs, continuation higher here as well. So this is what we have for the IWM coming to market open. Those were the major indices, basically all of them. We're going to be looking for continuation above our previous day highs coming into market open. Now, with that being said, going to go into a couple of tech names here. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, going to go over some for the next kind of 5 minutes until core PPI. And then we'll kind of develop our game plan coming to market open. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that's also in the description below. Got it. Now it makes sense. Thank you. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's go on to Tesla. So Tesla is the one that has been leading the overall markets. Sorry, lagging the overall markets. Most things are kind of bouncing back closer towards our all-time highs here, at least on the Qs and the SPY. Tesla is showing a little bit of buyers here, with the overall markets pushing higher. So really not too much to talk about. Weekly time frame kind of digging back into this period of consolidation. If we look at the daily chart, we are finding a little bit of buyers here. The key levels that we have marked out is, of course, the key levels that we have marked out on Tesla is that 340. So we are seeing some buyers step in here off that 340 last week. Now you can see some more buyers kind of stepping in earlier into this week. The key levels that I do have marked out on Tesla, at least the main levels here on the hourly time frame, is of course going to be that 365. So we have that 340 and we have that 365. If we do want to see upside on Tesla, what I'm going to have marked out personally is now going to be our previous day highs. That's going to be key. We can mark this out, drag it over, and then we can just kind of mark out this level, which was the day previous. So for Tesla coming to market open here today, we could see a move up in towards that 365 here on the higher time frames. That is in play above our previous day highs. If we can maintain above our previous day highs, we can see this continue push up in towards that 365. Another possible scenario above our pre-market highs, push up in towards this 365 here as well. So this is what we have for Tesla coming to market open. If you do want to see some downside, we are having a pretty big gap up, so I'd be a little bit more cautious. But for Tesla, right, downside for me would be kind of this 365 rejection. Sorry, on the higher time frames. If it breaks underneath our previous day highs, we could see a push down in towards that full gap fill. So this is something to keep in mind here as well. But if we do reject here, get back underneath that previous day highs, we can see a push down in towards that full gap. Let's talk about the semiconductors first. Let's talk about NVIDIA. The key levels that we have marked out on NVIDIA, of course, is that previous day highs along with our high that we created here from last week. Sorry, let me just adjust it a little bit. 190. You can see trade up in towards our 190 yesterday, multiple touches on NVIDIA. Nice kind of gap fill, and now we're above our previous day highs. What we like to see is this level now be used as support for continuation higher, right? So NVIDIA is going to be one of my top watches coming to market open. This is our Friday's highs, previous day highs here as well. Break, retest, continuation towards the upside. So this is what we have on NVIDIA coming into market open here. So 190 is going to be key. And then we like to see a push up, 193, 194. And then plus the next levels that we do have is going to be all the way back up and towards 194 here. So this is what we have for NVIDIA coming to market open. Let's keep an eye on that break and retest above our previous day highs. As for AMD, another one that looks good for continuation higher here as well. Next levels that we do have is going to be, of course, that all-time highs. So the key levels that we have marked out on AMD is going to be that 250. What we like to see is break and retest above that 250 or above our previous day highs for continuation. So AMD, very similar thesis to NVIDIA. Right, break and retest above our previous day highs for continuation, or right, kind of the hold above our 250 for this continued push towards upside here as well. So that's what we have for AMD and NVIDIA. Apple, this one, really not too much to talk about here. Kind of consolidating in between our 262 along with our 256. A couple of reactions here off this general area. Now for Apple, you do want to see longs above 262, or of course the bounce play here off this 256. That's going to be key here on Apple. As for Google, another one that looks good, break and retest above our 320. This one does have room back up and towards, another one back up and towards our 330, and of course that all-time highs here, 350, which is a little bit farther away. But based off of the hourly time frame, a couple nice break and retest coming to market open, right? Google, another one, potential previous day high, break and retest above our 320 is in play for continuation towards upside. Microsoft, finally showing some buyers here. I kind of talked about this on the weekly time frame. It is lagging, but in a very key spot here. Now we are seeing some buyers step in. Let's see if we can get that pushback towards the upside here on Microsoft. As for an intraday trade, the key level now is going to be that 390 that we have to reclaim. As you can see, this was the area that we rejected off from last time, kind of the area that we broke down from, this general area. So if you can get back above that 390, we can see a nice pushback towards the upside. Key levels, we actually are currently above it, 386. So now what I like to see here on, what I like to see here on Microsoft, hold above that 386 for that continued pushback towards the upside. Okay, we just had core PPI coming in here as well. As for Meta, nice break and retest above our previous day highs for continuation is in play. Amazon, another one that's showing a lot of relative strength. Next level that we do have on Amazon, of course, is going to be that all-time highs that we have marked out. So for Amazon, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be our previous day highs. Previous day high break and retest above our 240 for a push towards the upside. And then even Netflix, this one does have earnings later into the week, but key level is going to be that 102.50, break and retest above that for continuation towards the upside. Okay, we just had our core PPI numbers come in. So as you can see, came in much lower than expected here. We'll see how this affects the market. But a little bit of reaction so far here on the Qs, but we did just have the core PPI numbers come in. The core PPI month over month forecasted 0.4%, actual 0.1%, PPI month over month 0.5%. Compared to 1.1%. So lower than expected here on the core PPI numbers. Not as big of a reaction, a little bit of a reaction here on the Qs, but not too big if you're on the 1 minute time frame. We are farther away from our previous day highs. So coming into market open here, let's go on to the higher time frames once again and kind of talk about the game plan. So as I mentioned, higher lows very much being built, still maintaining above key levels, every single dip so far being bought up. What we like to see for the Qs is just going to be the maintain above our previous day highs. That's going to be key here, right? 618, maintain above 618 for continuation. SPY, the key levels that we have marked out, is going to be that 686. Break above that, hold above that for continuation higher here as well. So we're going to maintain a bullish stance on the market as long as we can maintain above our previous day highs for continuation. Main names that I do like: Nvidia previous day high break and retest, AMD previous day high break and retest. Semis are still holding up fairly nicely if we look at the SMH here as well. A lot of other names are shaping up nicely here as well, right? Something like Google previous day high break and retest here is in play. Microsoft above our 386, even Meta above that above that 635 here on the higher time frames. And even Amazon above that 240. So a lot of names are shaping up nicely here. Now let's go on to a few other tickers. Palantir kind of bouncing off our key level of support. If we are looking at this on the weekly time frame, Palantir is in a very good spot, right? Previous kind of resistance level broke above it. Now we're coming back down to retest. Palantir, right, off that 120, very low risk. Kind of digging right now. It's holding this level perfectly. It could dig even a little bit deeper down and towards that 120 and still be solid for continuation, but so far we are defending that 120 nicely. What we like to see here now on Palantir is really the bounce off that 125, which we're currently getting. So the key levels that we do have marked out on Palantir coming into market open here. Previous day high break and retest nicely yesterday. Now the key levels that we're going to have marked out is going to be that previous day highs once again. If we do want to see continuation above our previous day highs, push up in towards that 138 is in play. AVGO, nice push towards the upside here. Next levels that we do have is going to be this full daily gap. So as you can see here, we have this gap up. Now what we like to see is the reaction. So far, we're trading up in towards this gap. So we could see a little bit of sellers kind of step in here on AVGO. But once we get that pullback, we are going to be looking for that full gap fill, which is going to be that 400 or that 395 general area. So after having this nice push higher, you could expect a little bit of sellers to step in here off that gap fill area and then look for that full gap fill. If it trades inside the gap, then we're just going to gravitate up and towards that 390 here on AVGO. So those are the levels that we have coming into today on AVGO. This one, as I mentioned, fairly bullish. We end up gravitating towards that full gap fill. But as for the key levels that we're going to have marked out, previous day highs trade inside the gap. We can see continuation. Bounce play here off that 376. You can see that continue push back towards upside here as well. Oracle bouncing nicely. MU. So let's talk about MU here. above our previous day highs now. We can see some continuation higher. If we're looking at this on the hourly time frame, really the next levels that we do have is, of course, going to be our all-time highs that we have marked out. So for MU, previous level of resistance, now we just like to see turn into support above that 418. We want to see this continue push towards the upside. So key levels that we do have marked out is, of course, going to be that 424, right? Balance play here off that 424 for that continuation higher above our pre-market highs for that continued push towards the upside here as well. SNDK is, of course, the leading memory name towards the upside above our previous all-time highs, above our previous day highs here as well. Nice continuation higher. So this was our key level last week. Above it, we kind of talked about SNDK being at all-time highs. This one very much bullish and intact for continuation higher. Key levels that we're going to have marked out: previous day highs 950, maintain above 950 now for this continued push up in towards that 990 here on the higher time frames. As for Intel, another one above our previous day highs, which was our Friday's highs. Nice break and retest here above our Friday's highs yesterday. Hold above that level for continuation. Another setup coming to market open, hold above our previous day highs. Push up and towards our pre-market highs here is in play. As for the rest of the semis and memory names, these ones are looking solid. A bunch of other names starting to bounce here as well. CRWV looks super solid, breaking out of its weekly base on the higher time frames. This one above our 114. We can see continuation up and towards that 130 and above. So a lot of names shaping up nicely today. I kind of laid out the game plan. We're just looking for continuation above our previous day highs. So as I mentioned, SPY above our previous day highs, Qs above our previous day highs. Main watches will be NVIDIA and AMD above our previous day highs, kind of this flat top break as well. And then even Google, break and retest above that 320, Microsoft above that 386, Meta above that above that 637.50, and then even Amazon above that 240. So a lot of these names look fairly solid. We're just looking for that low risk pullback coming to market open off that previous day highs. Memory still looks super solid, so keep an eye out on MU, right? SNDK pullback, right? Intel maintain above key level. So there's a lot of things to kind of talk about here, especially with the higher time frames flipping back bullish, every single dip being bought up so far. So now we can expect a lot of these, right, memory names, some high beta names that have been beaten down quite a bit for continuation higher. So keep an eye on the semis. Really, the game plan is going to be the same thing coming to this week. Any sort of major pullback that we do have, going to be looking for longs back in towards key levels, starting off with the semis and, of course, the memory names that we do have. But yeah, that is going to be it for me today. I'm going to get ready for market open here now. If you guys did enjoy that, appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Peace.